It does feel very like what's the I'm getting it on like that fucking meme of like born too late to have a house, born too early to be a TikTok Zoomer star, born just old enough to remember what is it? Ads on the TV for buying ringtones.
I do remember those.
You remember those?
I remember those,
There
yeah,
were so
because
many of those.
it was the time where it was like you'd spend like $7.99 to get like Crank That Soulja Boy as your ringtone.
Yeah, or some Crazy Frog shit or some shit
Crazy
like
Frog
that.
Yeah,
does?
Crazy
Oh
Frog
my
is the
God.
All right, here. This is Corner Späti canon.
right.
Crazy Frog is the European version of Crank That.
Yes.
All right?
It is European because you can see his penis.
Yeah, you can
Like
notice.
those, like,
he has a tiny penis.
Yeah, like the fountains in Belgium. It's
Wait,
cultured.
what? You can see his dick?
Yeah.
Why?
It was probably censored in the American market.
Probably. You want to see a photo?
I just remember that then like they had on
Frog.
like midday on like MTV when you would like watch MTV like when I was a kid I would watch it like throughout the day because you'd have like all the like before the reality TV show stuff, but it was like
I love how Yulia zoomed in on her phone, just in like the two fingers.
yeah,
zoom.
but it would be like it was before the period of time
That's a stick.
where they did holy shit, wow, he's hung. But you would no, not at all. I mean, like it's not like
It's
micro penis status, but
Maybe it's a grower.
No,
yeah, the crazy
Crazy
frog
frog
would
has a
grow
grower.
without a shower.
that's what he's saying in the song in his own language.
Exactly.
He's just on like an unhinged
Like,
Facebook
hey,
video
girls.
rant about how his penis is normal size.
Yeah, but that was the thing.
It's
Is that
censored
then,
on Amazon.
good. Yeah. So during the day, though, on MTV, in between, Room Raiders and Next, like you would
yes.
have these infomercials that would be like the #1 hit ringtone in Europe, and it would be the fucking crazy like ming ding ding ding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still
Yeah.
coming. I'm still coming back to the link that you can see Crazy Frog's penis because it's cultured. It's like the little boy fountains in
It's like David.
in Belgium. Yeah, it's like
Oh,
David.
you mean mannequin piss?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
exactly. It's neoclassical architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy
Sticks.
Frog.
Yeah, Crazy Frog is
Oh, I thought dicks.
crazy. Yeah. Return with a V.
Like an all-white Crazy Frog. Like those people don't want to accept that Crazy Frog when he was first built was like blue and
Yeah,
gray.
exactly.
And it was like painted all colorfully.
Oh my goodness. Hey. Welcome to your weekly Corner Späti. It is your true host, Nick, joined with my underlings, Yulia.
Excuse me.
No, because Kieran's been introducing the show, like, I think now for more episodes than I have.
I want to introduce it.
You can...
Hey.
Oh hell yeah! Oh no, you bailed halfway
Yeah.
through.
Hey. This is your weekly Corner Späti. I am your host, Julia, joined by Kieran
Well, this is so hot. What's happening?
and Nick.
Hi.
Awesome.
All right, there. Yeah. You did it, Yulia. How do you feel?
I feel
200 and something episodes into this, and you finally,
I feel powerful. I feel great.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Don't you want to do it every episode
Yes.
now? Aren't you jealous now whenever Kieran and I
We're
say,
gonna
Rob
fight
is-
now over this.
Rob is actually on the episode, but he was knocked unconscious by just a left hook by you, Dick. She's just feeling so powerful. He's like, this is my podcast.
I love how the hey started as me doing a joke to how Anthony Fantano introduces his videos and has now
And now
become a
it's-
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Like everything that's not serious on this podcast, it's just like absurd take on absurd take upon absurd take where we over time forget where this originally came from.
Yeah.
In 2 years we're gonna be talking about Crazy Frog Dick and we're not gonna know why.
We talked about it already in this episode. I don't know what you're talking about.
know, but-
I'll forget this episode exists in 2 years.
Oh, no, I'll forget this episode exists tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh wow! You should get that checked.
Yeah, I got Brandonitis. Yeah. So we have a packed show for you today.
Yes.
Why am I now the host? Yulia, you just hosted, and then now you're
Maybe she
dipping
domed
out.
you, and now you're doing
Yeah.
the work.
Damn it! Shit. como se dice fin dom?
Exactly. I'm just
Alpha
doing
Italianish.
I'm just doing the fun parts.
Yeah. No, we have a packed show for you today with David Adler from the Progressive International talking about a very serious topic of Europe's borders and the Aegean Sea and they're not called pushbacks. They are called driftbacks. I need to remember this for later, even though
we went into that conversation, and I think it's super interesting because we didn't get to talk about it, but there is like quite a wide variety of on the forensics architecture website of like all the different things they've cataloged that they're putting under the umbrella of driftbacks, and it's going to be really interesting to see if there's any response to this publication, because a lot of like a lot of like mainstream media houses and stuff like that have just like not responded or acknowledged it. Be very interesting to see. I'm suspecting a lot of like institutions, authorities, people who like are just complete right-wing chuds or whatever are going to do very like, that's not a drift back when like talking about like they're just going to try narrow the definition for the purposes of like changing the number to make it look.
Oh yeah, you're a fan. You're a fan of front text. Can you name 8 driftbacks?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm wearing we're all wearing our front text band tees.
That is actually something that I was thinking about earlier today. But remember when like Frontex was everywhere on social media? Like I think last year.
Yeah, where they had their glow up with their new uniforms and shit like that. Yeah.
Just a few weeks ago, I saw a poster, a Frontex poster.
Really, like a hire or like
yeah.
What are they advertising to?
I don't know.
Yeah, who the fuck is like? Oh yeah, like
I don't know. It was like one of the like the category of cop posters here in Berlin, basically.
Okay,
they also have
the thin blue line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they also had it for Frontex.
Is Frontex? Yeah, this is my question for American chuds. Is Frontex included in the thin blue line, or do they
get their own color? I don't know what it is.
Oh god, this
running out of colors.
I saw a stand-up thing from one of our friends from Pod Damn America talking about the thin red line. And it's like, why do the firefighters need it? People like them.
They're not being
totally.
They're not going to go into your house and like start a fire and then shoot your dog.
Alex Patak's bit on that is very good.
Oh my
God. But we're closely running out of colors. But that was something that I was thinking about recently. I posted on Twitter. Is like, has someone done like a thin blue line NATO flag? Because you can do like thin blue line flags for everything. There's like a thin blue line UK flag. There's a thin blue line like Italy flag or whatever. And it's like all very cursed.
We can make it.
We can make the thin blue line NATO flag, and if I post that, I feel like everyone will unfollow me for various reasons.
I feel that then some people that we know would appreciate this. So, but enough about that. We're going to talk plenty about bad things. I'm here, as Rob is our only island boy on the show. Technically Kieran is too, but his island's not tropical and fun.
No.
Yulia's German, so no. Yulia she wishes that she was an island girl.
Zut.
Yeah, Zut doesn't count.
Such a fucked vibe for Ireland, though.
Yeah, I'm wearing like a sweater around my shoulders, and a white blouse, a white sailing
Don't ask where your family's wealth comes from. Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Chin chin.
You're rapping not in a pool, but in front of your like 4 Audi A8s.
Yes, that's my kind of island girl.
Zilt Island.
Now, I am from a landlocked
island.
It's not an island.
Big island. It's called the Americas.
Yeah, it is hot where I'm from. That is Phoenix, Arizona, baby. 602 represent. And I'm here to give you, Europe is on fire. It's hot. Everyone's, the British tabloids think that this is fun for everyone. And I'm here to just kind of give a little, I'm here to school you, if you will. I'm here to, educate you that heat is not fun. No. As as the hottest boy, both in terms of looks on the show and in terms of that I'm
Kieran,
from the hottest place.
Like that?
I'm so tired from raising a child. I'm gonna let it happen.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm here to give my Nick tips on how to survive climate apocalypse.
Yeah, this is the new fun thing that's happening. Not only do we have the fun thing of like
Climate apocalypse.
the climate apocalypse, then you have like a lot of people who were like climate denialists now going like, actually, you're a pussy for not being able to handle the heat.
Oh yeah, great.
That's a new fun thing they're doing now. But now we get the new terrifying industry that I feel like Nick is going to spearhead of becoming a heat influencer.
I'm a heat influencer, baby.
Nice.
How do you? All right, here my fingers tented. I'm the wait. I'm about to say I'm the Andrew Tate of heat influencing, but he's now just being investigated for human trafficking charges.
So, yeah,
I'm not him. But
No. But you're going to become like Jeremy Fragrance is the fragrance influencer.
yeah.
And now you're going to teach us like cold potato loving Europeans how to handle the heat.
I love potatoes.
We do love potatoes.
Yeah.
This is me and Yuli on the pod. Strong potato.
I love potatoes. I had some French fries today.
Stop it! You're ruining the bit.
Yeah.
So we're going to change your name to like Jeremy Fahrenheit.
I love that one.
That's like kind of
That's
sexy.
great. That
Nick
is
Fahrenheit. Yeah. Oh, that's
I
hot.
love that.
That's sick.
That's cool.
All right, I like that. Nick Fahrenheit.
Mr. Fahrenheit.
Mr. Fahrenheit. Oh god, that sounds
Mr. Too Damn Fahrenheit.
Mr. Too Damn Fahrenheit. I sound like I'm a fucking I sound like I'm like featured on a Sean Paul song. That's only
Right?
because
Yeah. Mr. Fahrenheit.
Mr. Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
All right, so Nick, give
The
us
right temperature. And then
Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought about
give
that.
us your heat influencing tips.
Give us
how
your
can I
heat.
stop having diarrhea constantly?
Have you had it yet?
No. I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Is that
yeah.
a heat thing?
That is the big thing. All right. First off, I do not know how to. All
Nick,
right.
what's heat?
What's heat?
Explain it to us.
Please.
All I know is that then.
I feel kind
All
of
right.
weird. My
So-
skin is crying.
There's tears coming from my skin. Am I sad?
It's like there's a radiator up against me all the time.
What's this big ball in the sky that's hot?
It hurts when I look at it.
I'm blind.
I'm assuming I have to power through this, right? Just keep looking at it.
Yes, exactly.
The only way out is through.
You have to get used to it.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that thing in Metalocalypse where that guy just like looks up when the axe is like coming and just like doesn't stop looking at it until it hits him in the face and he dies.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
What's your Metalocalypse
That's me.
reference?
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah. I seriously. That was a serious tweet of mine of heat influencing. Is that then?
It's all serious.
It is no. Some of them aren't, but yeah. The my heat influencing as a whole. Yes, you're right. But I like to have fun. You know, we all like to have fun on the podcast. Yes, no. But if you're out there, having fun in the sun, which is what. I'm going to use Fahrenheit terms right now because they sound cooler, but like 100+ degrees or like around 38 to 40 something degrees. And you start having tummy aches, and you know that those type of tummy aches are the ones that then are going to like expel your bowels. Yeah, go inside, be safe, and drink a lot of water because you, my friend, have experienced the beginning stages of heat exhaustion, which can turn into something that will end up with you in the hospital.
Oh my God.
And it's fun too because you like can start feeling your blood pressure drop. Like, that feeling of like anyone who's had like anaphylactic shock has that like feeling as well as someone who also has had that happen at your place.
funny.
Actually,
Okay, we need to stop because Yulia's having like psychosomatic reactions.
no, you're fine. You have water
doing
right
that.
next to you. We're like the studio's pretty cool. It's fine. No, like you feel like you've never had like a sudden drop of like or sudden drop or raise in blood pressure.
Of course I had that.
Yeah. So that happens, and then you feel your stomach get all weird, and that's the beginning stages of heat exhaustion. You're fine. You're not red. Also, you fever, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And this is the thing is that I don't want our listeners of our show to have doo-doo diarrhea pants.
No.
And so I'm here to
That's
tell
our
you.
corner Späti promise to you.
Yeah. No.
You won't get to it.
Yeah. Nothing. No expelling. Heat out of your asshole.
It's gonna be great, just like the future where we're gonna have like heat PSAs like rolled into the classroom where like, now Billy, you would never play with heat without adult supervision.
Yeah. I just the thing that I just find to be one of the funniest ones is that then I think this is the only country where you have to like remind people to drink water.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Germans like water for pleasure. They don't like water for
Sparkling,
hydration.
you can't drink too much of it.
You can drink. I mean, you're just gonna burp a lot.
Yeah.
It still hydrates you. But
As an Irish person, I morally oppose sparkling water.
yeah,
We drink it like it's a aperitif.
I know. Yeah, I mean, bubbly water I love.
I
But
love bubbly water.
all I'm saying is that then the hotter that it gets in Europe, I'm gonna start doing Jeremy Fragrance ass videos of like sexy boys, sexy girls. You don't want to shit your pants from heat exhaustion.
This is a thing Jeremy Fragrance would say, though.
Yeah, you'd be like, "Hey guys, I just shit my pants."
Oh my god.
Oh
my god.
We're talking about something very serious.
It's 56 degrees outside, and I just hiked a mountain. Which why? Like this is a legitimate concern of mine. All right. There is a thing literally every single year, as being from, the great state and the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix, Arizona, is that literally every year Europeans come and just decide that then, July is the time of the year that I wanted to go and hike Camelback Mountain.
Yeah,
in the middle of summer when it is, 48 degrees outside. And then they get lost and, shit their pants and maybe die. And or the best video of that is when someone, like, I think a lot of people remember this, where then the person who was on the gurney that then the helicopter came to pick up started spinning around and around and around and around and around and around. Yeah, that is that was a person who got overconfident in the middle of summer, thinking that they could hike up a mountain, an actual mountain, like not your dumb fucking little European hills,
We also have mountains.
But this
the
is
Alps.
But that's like
It's a cold mountain.
It's a cold. It's a different thing. It's in the south of the country.
Mountains.
It's in
New
like
concept.
they're in the middle. Yeah, they're in the middle of the city, and Germans they're like, oh my god, like, yo, if I could boulder there.
No, for sure.
Yeah, yo, if I could be barefoot.
Oh my god.
To be fair, a lot of tourists are just really fucking stupid, though, because the same thing happens in kind of like the opposite in Iceland. Of like a bunch of people will go visit Iceland, and then they're just like the native Icelandic people are just like, oh yeah, here's this city, here's that, blah blah. There's some cool stuff over there, and then they're just like. The tourists are like, yeah, cool. I'm going to go into the interior of the country. And all the Icelandic people are just like, well, he's off to die. So good luck to you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's like also dumb friends of mine who do the same thing in Phoenix because they're like, it's like fitness, like insanity shit. They're like, oh, I burn the most calories if I'm just like on the verge of death. Or they'll like, I mean, the thing is too is that they'll like go early-ish enough in the morning to where it's still like really hot, but it's not like, I mean, it's still like deathly hot, but it's not like midday, 2:00 in the afternoon, like sun beating down on you. What's it called? They're are circling above you.
The vultures.
Vultures are circling above you. Yeah,
Nice.
You see the skull of a let's say of a cow, but it's of a bull typically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the desert rose like
How you know you're about to die in
going by, and then you hear the sound of
like a slide.
yeah, exactly.
That's how you know you're gonna die in
Yeah,
Arizona.
exactly. That's how you know you're gonna die. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool, actually.
If this is how I go,
How do you know that you're going to die in the desert? It's when you see a animal that's big.
yeah, this is like some sort of like state park like patrol guy in Arizona just being like on the radio like, come quick, he's slide guitar and
That's the end.
Yeah, it's playing the Breaking Bad thing.
Yeah.
he's Breaking Bad over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the I'm gonna dive fully. And what the best way to hydrate yourself is? Yep, that's right, diamond water.
Yeah, new sponsor. Yeah, like the problem with the heat influencers is when the sponsorship deals come in and they're just like, guys, new method of getting over the heat happens by like, okay, this is SpawnCon, but it wouldn't have to be. I think it's a great product anyway. Just be talking about it anyway. You should be drinking salt water.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's okay. If you vomit profusely, that's just the toxins coming out. You're getting cooler.
That's the heat leaving your body.
Cleansing from the inside.
Yeah. Once Mr. Too Damn Fahrenheit has gotten his new rival of just like some Swedish jackass influencer who votes for like Sweden Democrats or whatever, called like Mr. Too Much Centigrade.
Yeah, I mean the problem with him though is that he's racist.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's it. I mean, like his tips are good, but he's a racist.
Yeah, he'll get cancelled and he'll lose like 2,000 followers out of 120. So we got the moral high ground. So all this is to say, as people will probably know from being on the internet, a lot of Europe is on fire or like experiencing the highest temperatures they ever had. Ireland had a wildfire as well. It had one, according to this map.
Wow.
In the last 24 hours as of yesterday, 18th of July. So that's fun. Which is probably like a gorse fire, because we have, I don't know if you guys have gorse plants, but we have those plants that like spontaneously combust.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we have them, but
In Ireland, there's a plant that can spontaneously combust. It sounds a lot cooler than it is. It just starts smoking after a bit. Because it's like...
it just stands there, lights a cigarette. Like,
puts on some shades, thinks it's better than me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like, it used to be a problem until like everything around them became kindling, and now it starts fires. Anyway, so that's what's happening. And should we lead into the interview now at this point? How are we doing? Yeah. Let's go for that. So, we are now going to be joined by a writer, political economist, and general coordinator of Progressive International, David Adler. He's going to be talking to us about the work that Progressive International has been doing with forensic architecture. There'll be links in the description about the driftbacks in the Aegean Sea. We've talked about this a little bit when talking about Frontex and Greece in general, because since we've started the podcast, we only started the podcast like a couple of months before the Greek election. So this has kind of been like a lot of their whole thing since being like elected is just really turning up the dial on brutal border control, as well as Yulia rightly pointed out, brutal internal control over like what you would consider radical communities.
yeah.
Both good and bad. Like I guess they did technically make Golden Dawn illegal after like absorbing all their membership or whatever, but
Or just like putting him into jail, that. And also too, an episode that I want to do in the future is about Golden Dawn's YouTube network.
YouTube network.
Yeah. They got a lot of influence on YouTube, yes. But I have to figure out who to talk with about that.
They're gonna take your thing. They're gonna get into heat influencing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason that you're hot is because of Turkish blood.
You drink this salt water and it will expel the Turkish blood. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, but this is kind of a serious topic, and Dave's a good person to talk about. So without further ado, let's cut to the interview. We are now joined by writer, political economist, and general coordinator of Progressive International, David Adler. Hello, welcome to the show.
Honestly, to be making my debut on this podcast is a real honor and a privilege. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, now I'm flattered, and I won't be able to get through the rest of the episode. I'm blushing too hard. God damn it.
It's true. I can see it.
So we're having David on because recently published a great deal of information regarding the... I'm seeing the term drift back now. I think people who listen to the show will probably be familiar with the term pushback, is the one we would use quite a bit. And I'm going to actually turn to you, David, to explain what this research is and what's been happening, because it's pretty horrific, and I get bummed out when I talk about it.
I just want to walk through the kind of simple statistical overview of what exactly is happening, specifically on the Aegean Sea, from which I'm speaking to you now. Here, we're working with forensic architecture and our friends here in Greece to release this information, this new trove of data, and then we can get into kind of the political context. But between March 2020 and March 2022, so for the past 2 years, over 1,000 of these driftbacks were documented on the Aegean Sea, which amounts to the expulsion of over 27,000 asylum-seeking people on that coast of beautiful Greek waters. So of those 1,020 incidents, 381 were found to have taken place from or off the shores of specifically Lesbos Island, which has become famous for housing the Moria concentration camp, which was recently on fire and has had lots of problems in terms of just keeping up with basic standards of decency and human rights frameworks established by the European Union and supposedly upheld by agencies like UNHCR. 134 off Chios, 197 on Samos, 127 off Kos, 93 off Rhodes, 75 in the rest of the kind of archipelago across the Aegean. Yeah. And some of these cases are particularly brutal. So, in 12 of those cases, looking at these specific set of verified cases under investigation here, asylum seekers were intercepted deep inside Greek waters before being taken to the border and then left adrift. So you'd asked a bit about why we're calling them driftback as opposed to pushbacks. Pushbacks often implies meeting the dinghies, meeting the boats where they are and basically kind of kicking them away or refusing them entry on the sea. In many cases, though, we're seeing a new and much more terrifying mode of interception that often involves bringing migrants ashore, stripping them of their possessions, beating the shit out of them, putting them back onto boats, and then pushing them out to sea. So, these cases show a really high degree of cooperation between different agents, different actors, different countries who were involved in this, right? We're talking both at the most local level, the Hellenic Coast Guard, that obviously relates to Greek PM Kyriakos Mitsotakis and his New Democracy government, praised across the continent around the world for being great shepherds of liberal democratic order in Europe and elsewhere.
The adults are back in the room kind of stuff.
Very much, yeah, exactly. I'm sure we'll get into a bit of that. Yeah. But also, there's the presence of NATO warships on the scene here, and of course, extensive cooperation, and not just tacit consent, really kind of the visible support of Frontex, Europe's border security. So Frontex there was found to have been directly involved in 122 of these driftbacks, mainly by spotting the incoming vessels and alerting Greek authorities. Really terrifying role that Frontex has come to play, with knowledge, though, of over 400 of these incidents, which it logs in their operational archives as, quote, preventions of entry. So we're talking about an extensive, systematic campaign of expulsions that have turned the Aegean Sea into another blue grave on the Mediterranean, at the same time that the New Democracy government, as you've covered on the podcast, but has become such a poster boy for responsible fiscal management, as well as figures of the great liberal democratic consensus triumphing over the more dangerous forms of so-called populism that have prevailed on left and right in other parts of Europe.
Yeah, but as I think Nick would be one to talk about, a lot of the New Democracy's success recently. I mean, it's 2019. I actually forgot how long ago it was basically accomplished by absorbing or reabsorbing.
We can be equally as racist as Christianity. Don't try me. Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that then was kind of always one part. I know that, we are a little bit cut for time, but the sense of that there was a, it kind of was a telling thing too, I would say, as well, with when the Mitsotakis government took over, that they kind of went and found these places of what's the proper word for it? The most famous being the cleaning up of Exarchia and stuff like
that's
that.
What I said.
Yeah, I know that you did. I'm just and that these as Yulia and I were talking about this before the show, kind of like just jogging our thoughts of that. Then one part it's attacking left wing spaces. At the same time too, it was attacking areas that then were seen as harboring refugees,
and safe havens for people coming into the country, which is one of them. Exarchia, definitely.
Yeah, so
it used to be.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just it's been since literally day one that this has been a thing of this government on a more domestic scale, of being the more brutal hand of the Mitsotakis and what's his name, the book salesman, Athonis Ioannidis will like go and talk about how much they like love Germany and Merkel and whatnot, and how they're like best pals. But in reality, like Europe does that whole thing of like, you're doing our fascism on the ground for us. You're being really brutal and violent. Cool. Let's just not put you in the same category as like a Hungary or Poland or something like that or whatever. Like, and not to mention too that Greece is a funny example of, I think they're like the lowest political, lowest press freedom in all of the European Union or something like that.
Yeah,
wouldn't surprise.
I mean, this is a pure oligarchy, and it's an amazing country case because it's such an impressive oligarchy because you can't speak its name. So in Italy, you can at least speak about that thing called the mafia and its various forms between Calabria and Sicilia, and it has a name, and oftentimes it has a face, even if it still operates very much in the shadows. But in Greece, you cannot talk about the mafia. You can't talk about the oligarchy. You can't talk about the connections between these various political leaders. And a case that I think we probably won't get into today, but relates, for example, to this massive scandal around pedophilia. It's ripping through the country that ties together a very important, prominent cultural figure attached to New Democracy who rose to fame slandering the left and its cultural hegemony and became the darling of the kind of populist right and was very close to this government. And then was just revealed that this person was running basically another systematic campaign of abusing young boys, and is basically walked away from that case with a slap on the wrist and a €30,000 bail, if I'm getting the facts straight.
Yep,
here.
last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last week?
So
Yep, last week.
So there's lots of these different. I think it's convenient to pin everything on Mitsotakis, and that's also, I think, good politics to really try to force the issue with where he is. But I was, of course, living in Athens on election day, and what was so remarkable about New Democracy's victory back in 2019 was that day the police were just everywhere. Right? I mean, it was like the gates were open and they were just unleashed again on a city that for years they felt they weren't allowed to control. They were playing by rules that they didn't feel like they were theirs. And that fascist energy was everywhere. Every party we went to, they stormed in. Bars and restaurants that friends had run, spaces that they'd controlled for such a long time. And Exarche Brazzo and Metaxarcheo, I mean, across the city, they were coming in, slamming us on the ground, searching everyone for drugs, breaking up parties in ways that were just flagrant abuses of power. Obviously, I'm from the United States, so I recognize that temptation on behalf of the armed forces in our cities to basically just deploy whimsical power in a show of strength. But what was amazing about that moment was it was very sort of night and day. So of course, there's a bit of that happening, giving this green light of impunity to the Hellenic Coast Guard from the center of the country. Sure. What's so amazing to me about this release of data, and this speaks more to the experience from my side running the Progressive International and teaming up with Forensic Architecture to do this drop, is that there are very few issues that when you touch, the trolls really come after you. One of them is Kamala Harris, one of them is Narendra Modi, and one of them, I swear to God, is talking about the abuse of migrants in Greece. I mean, this ignites these crazy army of bots who, of course, call you, batty boy for Erdogan, who call me a kike and tell me to go back to Israel. These kinds of crazy,
Erdogan, a person who's definitely not been doing the same thing and just forcing people to cross the border as well.
Which is why it's so helpful to look at this part of the world to see these contradictions really flourish. So on the one hand, you've got, Europe playing both sides of the Aegean. You've got them coming down that famous photo shoot where Ursula von der Leyen and Josep Borrell and all of them are on this, kind of Black Hawk helicopter flying down, calling Greece, Europe's shield, going and doing that photo shoot with leather jackets with Mitsotakis on the Turkish border. On the other hand, you have the longer legacy of Merkel's deal with Erdogan to stem the flow of migrants. And of course, lots of kind of collateral damage in the middle, if I can speak so kind of cruelly and coldly about the lives of migrants, but, migrant lives being kind of sacrificed in between these two countries. But, there's no resolution to that. And of course, Erdogan's now promising to wage war. The tensions between these two countries, between Greece and Turkey, are extensive. And the mediating role of Europe is just completely unsustainable. So, it's all kind of coming up here, but we've gotten to a place, and I think this is sort of similar with other parts of that we won't name here of things happening in Europe, where, to criticize Europe is to side with this autocratic, other, instead of being able to take account of any systemic abuses here. And that is, of course, a very terrifying situation in the context, as you mentioned, of the absence of press freedoms and severe police repression and like mafia disappearances that are kind of regular in an oligarchy like Greece.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last time. We talked about Frontex actually when we were talking about.
Did you break your chair?
No, I didn't break my chair.
Okay,
didn't come up with the mic. Don't break attention to it. When we last talked about Frontex, we were talking about we couldn't pronounce his name, so we kept calling him Fabrice Leggeri.
The disgraced now former head of Frontex.
He held on for a long time after a lot of scandals, to be fair.
Well, they were piling cash into some Swiss bank account to make him hold on to that position. I promise you that.
Fair enough. I mean, we had a little bit of a laugh at the fact that he's been trying to like arm all of Frontex and turn it into like a police force, but all he's been able to do is get them to like have guns inside their office in Warsaw. And like as soon as you leave the office grounds, you're not allowed to have the gun anymore, which seems like
why is there?
It's a symbolic victory, I guess, for them. I don't know, but yeah, I think we talked about this last time of like that kind of, for a lack of a better term, like EU flag emoji Twitter, who will see any attack on like the EU from a structural level as like attacking them for having a Portuguese friend, kind of thing. Like that you can't actually have friends from across this continent without like turning the Aegean Sea into a graveyard. That very limited imaginative world is possible. Never mind something even greater than that.
No, yeah. I mean, we're inching toward my favorite topic, of course, which is Volt Europa. But that
I was
type of
about to say, is this Volt? Yes.
Which I don't, not premature, but that is, I mean, that absolutely. There's a certain style of Erasmus liberalism that is prevalent among our generation of millennials that just does not countenance any criticism of Europe. But I guess who's had this so-called Europeanism forged in the furnace of the exit movement, Citadel exit, Frexit, Brexit moment, and who therefore, feel a sense of weird, like they don't even sense their own victory, having defeated that particular political moments. Not to say that it's in the grave forever, but to say that they still feel this kind of wounded sense of how dare you have ever questioned the inevitable trajectory of European integration, and still that has, at its fringe become so deeply entwined while those people were not paying attention. I mean, while the Volt Europas were drinking Aperol Spritz on their summer vacation, they haven't been paying attention to the ways in which at the right fringe, these wild anti-Semitic neo-fascist forces have become recruited into that Europeanist project. And, people like Viktor Orban are very open about this. They'll say, I won. You laughed at me and then you fought me, or whatever the phrase is. And then I won, and then you joined me. And that's really where Europe's migration policy is. That's where Macron has been, that kind of total false opposition between the so-called liberal center and the neo-populist.
I mean,
right.
The latest incident with like Spain's Sanchez and the situation at the Spanish border. Morocco.
Guard,
I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about what's happening in Spain and the horrendous massacre in Morocco, which is essentially sort of Spain sanctioned. I think what's really interesting about that is something that I observed back in Los Angeles for the Summit of the Americas. So what was happening at the Summit of the Americas and the preparations for what was going to be called the so-called Los Angeles Declaration was that Spain was negotiating with the U.S. government. So Sanchez was negotiating with Joe Biden to find a win-win solution, according to them, that would basically put Central American migrants from these caravans from Guatemala and El Salvador onto planes at the southern border with Mexico, and fly them to Spain, right? Because Spain...
That's the same. Yeah, I mean, they all speak Spanish.
Spain, exactly.
But
so Spain...
that's some Great Britain Rwanda stuff right now.
But let's talk about like what that policy is. So Spain really needs migrant labor, right? They need to build all these buildings. They've relied on migrant labor from North Africa for a long time. Of course, also from from South America and Central America. There's lots of Colombians and of course Chileans and historically Argentines hanging out in Spain, but they need really cheap migrant labor because that's how Spain can farm and build buildings, etc. Right? But Spain cannot take any African migrants because of Europe's policy of externalizing its borders south. So Europe's moving deeper into the African continent, of course, began kind of with Morocco and Libya and Egypt, and now it's pushing it down to Sudan and further into the Congo, where French forces, NATO forces are prevalent. And
I'm assuming they can't really rely on the strategy that a lot of like what you would call maybe like Central Western Europe uses of relying on like Eastern European labor, because Eastern Europeans are probably more likely to go to Germany for German wages than they are for Spain to Spanish wages.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're also living through the great equalization of GDP per capita across the European continent. I mean, I don't know if you've seen these graphs, but Poland's on a trajectory to basically catch up to Spain in the next couple of years, and then
possibly
soon
overtake
catch up to the UK.
them as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not, that flow is sort of, I think, slowing to a halt as economic prospects in Eastern Europe start to reach parity with those of Southern Europe in particular, and eventually with Western Europe, certainly with the island of Britain soon. But you see the gamble there of Sanchez is to say, okay, I've got to stick with this European migration policy. I've got to stick with this thing that's being decided at a continental, almost civilizational level, that we're not going to let any Black and brown people from the African continent come here. That's what this is about. That's what that deal is with Morocco. That's why that massacre happened with total impunity, because Spain had the Moroccans were basically saying, we hold all the cards here, unless you with your little Ceuta, with your little piece of our African continent still owned by Spain. Many people still don't realize that Spain owns this tiny piece of the African continent in the north of Morocco. We'll just let them come into your territory. And so, of course, they threw the Polisario and the Sahrawi people under the bus in making this deal with the Moroccan monarchy to say, okay, we'll give up the Western Sahara. We won't touch that. Spain was one of the last standing countries to try to negotiate on behalf of Western Sahara and its sovereignty. But no, you have that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pivot across the Atlantic Ocean towards Central America, basically shipping in these desperate and vulnerable migrants, but at least they speak our language, at least they have a better chance of integration, and at least it won't violate that kind of civilizational discourse of protecting Europe's borders. And that is just how twisted Europe's migration policy has become in the past few years.
One thing that I was thinking about as well, of like having to cover a lot of the it's very confusing, because these aren't I'm not going to call them pushbacks now, they're called driftbacks. I need to remember that. Is that a lot of like, if you get like look up footage from the Hellenic Coast Guard, it like makes it seem like that they're doing like humanitarian work. Like if you ever like have to get like, because for work we have to get pool footage of like these, the people that they don't ship back over or try to like, drift away from the European continent. They make it seem like that they're doing this like big like rescue of these people. And like, but the thing that's really interesting is that when you see these stories unfold, a lot of the times it'll be a boat that they capsized. And then they'll go back and be like, and then they rescue them. They're like, oh, wow, look, we found all these like migrants who were in a boat, drowning or whatever, this and that and that. Look how great we are. And then the story has to get like revised like 3 days later of that. Then, it turns out the Greek Coast Guard purposefully hit this boat or whatever, or did whatever it was. And, like tried to then frame.
It's a deeply, deeply sinister thing that's happening. And living in Athens when I was, this is now a couple of years ago, and doing the work that I was, and speaking to people who were working around in migrant rights issues, be they lawyers or activists, the stories are shocking. I mean, they're really, really unbelievable. And then you think, okay, if these stories are shocking and they're unbelievable and they're horrendous and murderous and illegal,
what are the other ones that aren't?
And then what is happening in Europe's name on the other side of the Mediterranean? So to me, I don't make a distinction between what the Hellenic Coast Guard does and what the Libyan Coast Guard does. That's one Coast Guard, because the other one is financed, supported, endorsed, facilitated by the other. And so,
mostly when by Italy, right?
Yeah, I mean, Italians are I'm here in Greece, but let me just say, the Italians are as bad as it gets. But no, I know when I work with migrants who are trapped in Tripoli, and the stories that they have of detention, torture, murder, of being systematically abused and denied their most basic rights in front of UNHCR, right? In front of the United Nations. And I don't, I feel inclined to say I don't know there's good people working at UNHCR, but this stuff is so systematic, it's so clear night as day. And Europe is just it's able to turn I almost say it's not turning a blind eye. It's almost able to just look at it and then look away. I mean, there's something so sinister and so callous and terrifying about what it says about our capacity to withstand cruelty and process suffering as kind of essential to the function of a system. It's almost like we're just, on the Snowpiercer, just has to happen that way. They're just in the back of the train here. So
yeah, it's the perfect like liberal reaction to everything. That then you can acknowledge that this happens. Yeah, great. Like pat yourself on the back, but are you actually going to do anything about it? Of course not. That would ruin your beautiful Evropa idea of.
It's making a deal with with certain countries, and then just how it's done.
Yeah,
you turn a blind eye on that.
It's always been there's always been purposeful ignorance as well as obfuscation of who's doing this. One of the things that we talked about with Frontex last time is about how for Frontex to do a lot of its stuff, this might have changed, but when we talked about last year, they need permission from the Coast Guard of whatever country they're in. Mm-hmm. Frontex wasn't able to really do anything without the permission of, in this case, the Hellenic Coast Guard. They probably do, but on paper, they're not meant to. And that kind of gets to this thing of I think a lot of Europe is very happy to make Frontex the bad guy almost in favor of pretending that it's not their local Coast Guard that's doing it. They're also very happy to make Erdogan the bad guy and pretend that wasn't the deal that Europe struck with him. All this kind of and then I think also to step back, you're involved in some good work, Progressive Internationals, we're insane podcasters, but most people are also not
we're on the front lines. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're the real heroes. No, but no one, a lot of people are not like us. I haven't seen polling, but I'm inclined to believe that a lot of people in Europe don't know what Frontex is, as an example. I think if you say Frontex to most people, it sounds like a delivery company to most people, like a FedEx. Or something. Yeah.
I think. And so of course, part of the job that we have is of course educating the public, publicizing these tragedies, releasing these troves of data, and then trying to bring people's attention to the atrocities committed under their names. But I think we're speaking in July. We've just lived through the most intense blitz of news and kind of really high pitched commentary that in recent memory in Europe, which has been the war in Ukraine. And I think when we look at that, what's interesting to me is always the balance of, let's say, idealism and realism between different political traditions. So, in the war in Ukraine, for example, the big line from liberals who hated the Mearsheimer, the IR realist position was to say, how dare you be so cold in the face of these dying Ukrainians? We've got to fight and fight and fight and stand up for our ideals. And it was very much about, fight until victory kind of thing, right? And then you come to a different case where there's lots of death and suffering and tragedy, and immediately, as you pointed out with Erdogan, it becomes, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to let all these migrants in? What are you going to just open the borders? Well, sometimes you have to deal with dictators. Sometimes you got to bargain with them. Erdogan, he's bad, but you got to do what you got to do. Oh, Libya, Sisi, all these people. Oh, they're bad, but you got to work with them. Oh, they're repressing their local domestic populations. Yeah, but we got to work with them. So
yeah, exactly. Just like Ursula von der Leyen, yesterday from Azerbaijan is the perfect example.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I always find it, I say interesting, but what I really mean is distressing, infuriating, nauseating. but it's always so unclear. Like, I mean, or whatever. I won't pretend to be so naive. It's just fucking racist. That balance of when liberals reach for their pearls and clutch them with indignation, and when they slam their fist on the table and say, wake up, this is just the world we live in. And that, peeling back that, even with a light Marxian lens, you see not just the racism, but the deep roots of, kind of imperial extraction in the African continent, and why they would want to kind of maintain control over huge swathes of territory to the south of Europe for resources and the upward flow of capital and value that comes up from Africa into Europe. So, it's so nauseating. But by pointing this out, I mean to say, like, I don't think that we can rely on this politics of publicity to get people. Okay, yeah, did you know Frontex? Right? Okay, we educate these people, but the roots are so systemic. So systemically, or this violence is so systemically rooted and has so much of a material architecture around it, to mix metaphors, if you'll permit me, then I think we can't just say, oh, did you know that this atrocity is being committed in your name, and do you want to do something about it? It has to be a much more systematic, much more, if you will, revolutionary project that can grapple and pull that violence out from the root.
Yeah, there's just like kind of one point to that I think is really interesting, pertaining exactly to Greece's scenario, has been of recent that Greece is like, the Mitsotakis government's been doing a complete like PR campaign of why Ukrainian refugees are different than the refugees that they've been pushing, or sorry, what's the other word now? Drifting back. And yeah, I mean, like, there is no other way of point. I mean, Greece hasn't taken in nearly as many Ukrainian refugees as, say, like Poland or something like that, or Germany, but still the fact that they're pretty close. It is a country that then historically has a lot of connections with Ukraine. If you want to look into the sense of, Crimea Odessa is really Greece, as deep listeners of the pod will know. Yeah. But no, there is, like, on a completely serious note, there's no other way of looking at this. I mean, like, and this is one of the blatant examples of, like, well, yeah, like, they're just racist. Like, it is cut and dry. There is this, you don't even need to like peel back like any of this through like a Marxist lens, just be like, oh yeah, it's very clear that it's just like they like them because they're white Christians, and that's that.
I think
Orthodox as well.
And Orthodox, exactly.
Well, we got that very obviously with the like quote unquote refugee crisis, when like countries in what you call Central and Eastern Europe were like literally asking for Christian Syrians only, and things like that. Like this is all very coded, and I'm kind of interested to see where like the media's narrative with Ukraine goes in the future, because I think a lot of powers that be have been very good at making people not care about travesties, that I actually think it's going to be very hard to sustain caring about a travesty for a long period of time. Because the classic one is always homelessness. Homelessness being this massive crisis all over the world right in front of you, and they've managed to make entire populations not care as much as possible. But that's neither here nor there. David, I guess my last question for you is, what can people do? We'll obviously have like links to the Aegean forensic architecture's work in the description, as well as Progressive International. But I'm wondering if there's anything quick. Do you have all the answers? That'd be great.
No, I've been, and there's so many groups who are doing such amazing frontline work on this. And obviously, if you're committed, if you're interested, if your passions are inflamed by this conversation, you should consider taking some time to get involved with these organizations. Greece, there's always more need for more people who are committed to this kind of work and helping, whether it's with legal support, translation support, or basic financial support, getting migrants kind of through this system. I think it's just, there's other ways it can filter into political activism, of course. I mean, not letting our political representatives who we've just given votes to, time to, leaflets to, forget that Europe runs concentration camps to this day that house thousands and thousands of people in absolutely abhorrent conditions. Not letting the issue slip from public view, not letting those atrocities get normalized in the way that you've described homelessness. But I do think, for all the work that Mitsotakis and his family have put into crushing any resistance to that regime in Athens and on the islands, I think it remains such a critical terrain, as of course does southern Italy and the whole Mediterranean coast, for the defense of these rights and humanity and beating back, like you said, that very zero-sum approach to Europe's integrity, that either Europe is bad and therefore the whole kind of it all crumbles, or it's good and finally we can defend the Evropa project on the world stage. So I hope that people check out, for example, the campaign that we've been working on for a long time to abolish Frontex. This is a needless and senseless organization that is way too young to be given basically blank check for the rest of eternity. And if we can dismantle that institution, then I'm really hopeful that we can move through the rest, marching through the institutions and making clear that we just don't want these atrocities committed in our name any longer.
Cool. And where can people find you if they want more David in their lives?
Yes, you can always find me on Twitter, variously kind of vacillating between poles of deep black-pilled irony and really, hopefully, kind of calls to action to get involved in the various struggles that are in and around our network at the Progressive International. My handle is David R.K. Adler. I hope you'll meet me there, and thank you all of you for having me on the podcast. I hope it's not the last time.
Oh, absolutely not. We definitely there's like several things you mentioned and alluded to that I just kind of wanted to pull on, but we're running out of time. And also, naturally enough, we do need to have you back for a Volt chat, because I think
definitely
you are the only person who might care as much as I do about Volt.
We should get some of them on the podcast as well. We should. I think,
oh my god,
you're missing
I can handle that.
Oh yes, you can. These people love the spotlight. They'd be very happy to come. We can have a kind of Voltapalooza and invite some of them to come around. Maybe we can do it live in Berlin, and I think we have a great time.
Well, Kieran watched their
I mean, we got
I
an
watched
election
their election
special,
night
yeah.
show, which was held in an Irish pub in Berlin, which I feel like they were taunting me after they'd all blocked me on Twitter.
I think I think we're
we
going
had
somewhere.
we had several discussions with them before,
We did,
yeah.
yes. They know us. But yes, David, thank you for coming on, and go back to the main episode now.
Until next time, thanks, guys.
Wow, that was such a sick, nasty interview. Thanks, David. This is not 5 seconds later from what I said. Let's cut to the interview. It's all been done with editing magic. Nick will sort that out. He'll also make me sound hot. So,
Yeah, Kieran's voice is the equivalent of the Giga Chad now.
Yeah. No, it's always has been. When people meet me in real life or come to the live show, they're just like, "Wow, Kieran sounds like shit." Why does Kieran sound like such a nerdlinger?
Yeah, what's the auto-tune version of Giga Chad voice?
I feel like that's like anonymous IRA informant voice.
Oh yeah, sick. Okay, yeah, that is Giga Chad voice. Oh my god,
definitely.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. So with that, we just edited the episode. Yeah. Thanks, David, again for coming on. For anyone who wants to find more David or more forensic architecture or Progressive International, there's all the links in the description. And we will catch you next week. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.